Man, Colston Loveland is the first tight end, Michigan. 6'5" and 3/4, 248 pounds, 10-inch hands. He's 21. He just turned 21 at the beginning of April.
Youngster.
Actually on the 9th. He didn't run anything at the combine. Last year in 10 games, he had 56 receptions, 582 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. He had a rush attempt for -2 yards. He did all that on 82 targets with 2 drops, 3.4% drop rate, and he had 290 yards after the catch, so about half his yards.
Garrett gave me the pleasure of doing Harold Fanning first and gave up a spot. This is your number 1 tight end overall. I will give you the pleasure to kick this off with Colston Loveland out of the team up north. Please tell me about this sexy wide receiver. Tight end.
Tight end. That's really the only negative, real negative thing I have to say is dang it, he played for Michigan. But honestly, watching his tape was a true joy. Mm-hmm. When you look at him as far as his movement skills go, his hands, his ability to be able to run all 3 levels of the field. You see him short, you see him intermediate, you see him deep. His hands are supernatural. He can pluck the ball out of the air differently than you see traditionally out of tight ends. He even has a little bit of nasty to him at times where you'll see a little pushing and stuff after the catch. He's not going to give you a ton after the catch, but he's got enough dog in him that he'll fight for a little extra and get a little extra here and there. But the thing that I really love, and this was hard because Warren and Loveland are both really, really good tight end prospects. But the thing for me was, if you look at what I want as far as a fantasy tight end, I want somebody like Colston Loveland. So for me, for fantasy purposes, not necessarily real life, but for fantasy purposes, I have them flipped. I have Colston Loveland over top of a Tyler Warren. And it's simply because I think we've seen it before in the past. His season before this, he put up much better numbers than he did this year, but he doubled anybody else in this offense as far as receiving yardage goes, despite missing a couple games towards the end of the year. And some of that was he was a little banged up, but I think some of that was they were just not a good team this year, and he didn't want to make anything worse for his NFL draft stock and potentially worsen an injury or things like that. But it sounded like he would have been able to play if there had been a little bit more to play for maybe. But he truly does. He runs routes like a receiver. He catches the ball like a receiver. His movement skills are very similar to a receiver. And so I don't see an obvious path of him failing at the next level outside of it just being an offense where it's we just don't use the tight end as much as we should, which we've seen good tight ends before, like a Kyle Pitts that just isn't used like he should. So it is one of the more scheme dependent positions, unfortunately, for fantasy football purposes. But as far as his pass catching ability goes, it is truly top notch.
Agree, man. Super smooth. Actually runs routes. You know what I mean? You don't always see that of tight ends. So I think, obviously the blocking is never going to be, but we don't care about that, right?
We don't want him to.
Yeah, exactly. I think
it's worst attribute, but totally fine with it.
Yep. Totally fine with it. So I guess the only other kind of thing I'll add to what you said is I think after the catch, I think he does a really good job of turning upfield and immediately starting to kind of maximize those yards after catch. I didn't see that out of everyone. Out of him, I did. And he's going to be able to outrun guys. I've seen hurdle guys. You know what I mean? He does. So I think I like him a little bit more maybe than you were letting on there after the catch. But just all around, not much bad to say. This is the kind of guy that you want for fantasy purposes. He's going to catch everything. He's going to make spectacular catches. The one thing I'll say is maybe he was a little loose with the football at times. I saw a couple times the ball on the ground. So that's something that can be coached out and hey, dude, you just need to tuck that thing in a little bit. But really, really great. And I actually have him number 1 as well. So
okay.
Yeah. Not that that's a knock on Tyler Warren at all. Because I really have both these guys very highly rated, but Colston Loveland, I think he's less scheme dependent than a guy like Tyler Warren, who who's versatile and probably needs a creative offensive coordinator to kind of get him involved and to maximize his. And we said that, but I think Colston Loveland, you send him out there, you send him out there. He's just going to win matchups and be open for your quarterback, and it's going to make it kind of easy.
Yep.
I have them ranked. If you look at my rankings on Twitter or X, I put out my top 50 like overall rookie Superflex rankings just based on tape and in tiers as well. Because I wrote on there like these tiers this year, like people are so close, like these tiers are probably going to break off and are going to really differentiate these players. And I have Tyler Warren listed first and Colston Loveland listed second, but they're like literally equals
right next to each other.
I feel like Tyler Warren is safer than Colston Loveland, which is, I know it sounds weird to say, but I just feel like, Colston Loveland's got some injury history there. His 23 tape is better than his 24 tape, which is take it for what it is. I remember versus Ohio State last year.
Quarterback was terrible.
Incorrect. And you're right.
2024.
And last year at J.J. McCarthy versus Ohio State, he
right.
had 5 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown.
He crushed Ohio State on several big catches.
Yes, he did. So, listen, I don't have much to knock this kid with. Like, those guys are equal. I have no problem with him being number one at all. Like, there's a good chance after the NFL draft where, again, I want to see where they kind of land up in offense. That's going to be my tiebreaker. He'll probably end up being my tight end one, too. He'll probably have a top 8 overall grade for me as well. And the only other thing that I'll say on the negative side, it was like I saw some of his jump ball ability. Like, he could
be a little bit more physical.
A little bit more physical there.
I would agree with that.
But besides that, man, I mean, this is a kid that he's a big receiver, right? He gets in and out of his cuts really, really well. He has those 10-inch paws, so his hands are extremely sticky. He's got a massive catch radius. His yardage after the catch, like you mentioned, like this is a kid that played running back in high school, so that does show. His yards after the catch ability kind of goes back to probably some of his running back days there. I thought he contorted his body well. I thought he was able to go grab the ball.
Great
and it's
body control.
very big catch radius. He's very graceful in the air as well. So for me, I saw, again, for somebody who loves tight ends, like I got really excited about this player. And this is where it gets tough, right? Definitely in tight end premium leagues, like to get a Colston Loveland, to get a Tyler Warren, you got to be like, okay, do I want him? Do I want a Mecca Ibuka, right? Do I want him? Not everybody, but for me, in my eyes, like I have them higher than Ted McMillan, right?
So I put out my top 36 today, a video with my top 36 players, and it went Colston Loveland, Emeka Ibuka, Tyler Warren, Ted McMillan.
Okay.
In order. So, I mean, I'm with you. It's there right there in tight end premium anyway.
And that's the one thing where I say you're taking best player available, but in that same tier, like if you have Brock Bowers, like you're not taking Colston Loveland, you're taking Emeka Ibuka, right? Like they're in the same tier. So, but if you need a tight end, which most people do, like this is the kind of guy you want to snag because this gives you that Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce, the guy because when you watch him, he is literally just a big receiver. There is really nothing tight end about this kid whatsoever.
Yep.
Which for again, fantasy wise, this makes me like I just took Cialis. Like this is good stuff. Like we're about to party.
Right. I mean,
not you and I, but
right. Thankfully, and knowing that he's not great at blocking, and if he still goes early in the NFL draft as well, like many expect, first round type of guy. Hopefully, they come up with a plan better than like the Falcons did for Pitts.
Sure.
And they actually use this guy. So that's I think very much reassuring to me anyway. That as long as it's not Pittsburgh with Arthur Smith there, then I think we're all right.
My dream scenario for him, absolute dream, which I don't think he's going to fall that far, but it's possible, is his college coach takes him.
Jim Harbaugh.
He ends up in L.A. He
took him on a visit, didn't he? He went on a visit there.
Well, say Tyler Warren goes to the Colts at like 11, wherever they're picking, like pretty high, and then he falls to like 22 to the Chargers,
which is about as far as I think he could fall.
Yeah, if he goes to the Chargers at 22. I mean, I might take him ahead of like even like Quinshon Judkins. Like he might enter like tier like 5th, 5, 6 overall for me in tight end premium. If he ends there, then I am extremely ecstatic for his upside because then he slides right into the number 2 receiver. And for what he could do in that offense in the warm weather, like I would be all over it. He'd be
Mike Williams being the number 1.
Yeah, for sure.